What's up, friends of the good mood? This is Money and welcome to a very important video there. I want to demonstrate to you guys what makes the freaking Manifold Missile so incredibly effective. Because I know there's a lot of people of you out there who sit there, see the statistics of the missile and say, huh, okay, it weighs incredibly much. It's a good amount of DPS, it's overall a decent weapon. It's not a decent weapon. It's an incredibly powerful weapon. It's more than Infernal Gatling Rays even, okay? And but the thing is, it's not always better than Infernal weapons. It requires the right condition for that, okay? What you can see here is the firing arc of the Manifold Missile cutter, okay? Seawolf is attacking Give X from IF here. Seawolf has a problem. There is no Midgard carrier in this fleet. And another problem is there is Manifold Missiles on those cutters. The Manifold Missile is something that you wouldn't want to use if you have to fire on something that tries to fly away from you at a very long distance. When you get very close to the target, it's actually very good if they fly away from you. We're gonna cover that in a moment. But you know, when you have troubles getting close, like in this fleet here, Manifold net torpedoes all over the place, and the agility support field making them kite you very fast away. And there's going to be a big problem for you coming here when you try to use cutters with Manifold Missiles. So my advice, try replacing one of those cutters in the middle with an empty Midgard carrier. No squadrons on the carrier, just an empty Midgard carrier. If you want, put some rear thrusters 5 on it or 4. That will make it fly faster with the enemy fleet, so you extend your own agility support field further into the enemy fleet. That's the only thing I would put on it. Maybe a Metaphase Shield 1 if you like, because then it looks like it had shields when it actually doesn't. So, yeah, that's what I would advise you guys to do. Replace one cutter with a manifold, with a Midgard carrier. It's always the better choice. You also have less repair time from the fleet, right? Because you have like one ship less repair too. And there is one Infernal Gatling Ray here on this cutter. The rest is all firing Manifold Missiles. I guess maybe Seawolf is in the process of refitting them to Infernal Gatling Rays still, and only this one has it so far. And that is the reason why only really this one ship is the only one dealing damage. We have Manifold Missiles here being fired from this cruiser and from this cutter. Let's have a look at how much damage this Manifold Missile that this cruiser just fired, okay? It's on the way to the cutter. How much it does. It deals almost no damage. Well, it's actually a lot of damage considering, you know, this is a cutter with Metaphase Shield 3, but keep in mind that this cruiser has 50% additional damage output against cutters. So knowing that, this much damage, third or fourth of the damage, 1/4 probably, is not really much. Why did it not do much damage? I can explain to you why it didn't do much damage. Let's go back a little. The Manifold Missile, it explodes. I can't do that very fluidly. Here, it explodes right there, and it hits the cutter once and twice. Why? Because the Manifold Missile fires twice. Always when it fires one salvo, and half a second or a second later it fires a second salvo. So it will hit twice, and that's it. All the other shots that are right here, the unfoldings, they are not dealing any further damage. See that? Because the target is away from it. That means you can counter Manifold Missile damage by flying through the Manifold Missile, okay? Then it will only deal the one salvo alpha hit basically, and the rest of the unfolding process is going to not deal any further damage unless you have further ships coming from back there. So that's how you can counter the damage, but that also means, in reverse, that if you fly with the unfolding process of the Manifold Missile, which we're going to see in a moment, you're going to get amounts of damage that you can't even possibly imagine. It's incredible, okay? So here, the only ship dealing damage so far of Seawolf's fleet is this Infernal Gatling Ray cutter. Oops. What is going on? Ah, here we go. Alright. That's the only ship dealing damage. All the Manifold Missiles really don't do so much, okay? Now they do a little bit because the ship is well in firing range and it's collecting the Manifold Missile. However, Give X is a pretty good player. He realized he loses his shield now and he can't fly with the cutters. Otherwise, he's going to collect all those Manifold Missiles and the cruiser is going to be gone very quickly. He knows exactly what to do in this type of situation. He goes behind the enemy cutter fleet and flies with them behind the cutters. They can't fire on the cruiser anymore, but that's not even the main reason. The main reason is because he has Manifold Missiles, okay? And that is just going to be a completely devastating thing to happen here. I'm going to show you right here what I mean. See this cutter, okay? He's now behind this cutter. He's flying with the cutter, and the cutter is well in firing range. If the cutter would be up here, it wouldn't work, because the Manifold Missile would fly up behind the cutter and it would explode here and would never hit the cutter if it was already here. But the cutter is very close to the cruiser and it flies in the same direction that the Manifold Missile will fly too. Okay, and this is just going to be completely insane. The hit points will be around 7,000 to 8,000. We are speaking about Mark V Basilisk cutters who benefit from armor, who have also probably an explosive resistor. Many cutters do have an explosive resistor because of vector torpedoes, because of manifold missiles on cutters and cruisers and whatever. Okay. Most people have that. So we can assume that there's around 10,000 effective hit points left on this cutter. 10,000 hit points effective, with the resistor and the hit points of around 7,000 hit points left, plus resistor around 10,000. We could say 9,500 or something. So let me show you how much damage this one cutter. You still remember how little damage basically this one cutter got in the beginning, because it crossed the Manifold Missile, went right into it, and let the rest go into empty space. And this is not going to happen here. Look at this. Boom, 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 boom. Look at this. This is so insane. One shot just dealt around 8,000 damage to this one cutter. Let's go back. One single shot, around 8,000 damage. And take a look at how often the hit points bar of the Manifold Missile moves, of the cutter moves. Nothing else is attacking this cutter at the moment. The only thing attacking this cutter is this cruiser with its Manifold Missile. Take a look at how often the hit points bar takes a hit. That's because it fires one salvo that unfolds and unfolds and unfolds, and then it fires a second salvo that unfolds, 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 and every single unfolding has its own damage potential and triggers an area explosive effect that will deal damage itself. So it has around the capability of dealing 6 to 8 times damage, the one shot from the Manifold Missile. Here, boom, 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 boom. This is so insane. This is so absolutely ridiculous, man. And I can show you the same situation even crazier now. By the way, this one cutter here, still the only thing dealing damage to this battleship fleet is this one cutter with a Gatling rays, right? All the Manifold Missiles have not done any single damage yet because the ships are flying away and they're too far away. This cutter is now getting in range to actually fire and deal damage with the Manifold Missile. But up to this point, it couldn't. And the only thing dealing damage was the Infernal Gatling Ray. Now, imagine that those cutters would all have the Infernal Gatling Rays. Those battleships would have been long gone, right? Probably the cruiser would have suffered a lot of damage. But of course, the carrier will be getting a little bit more dangerous when you have no Manifold Missile on your cutters. Not what I want to show you, though. What I want to show you is that this you can barely see it below the explosions here. This cutter here being hit, it just fired a salvo of Manifold Missiles, but the carrier was slightly, it was in range, but it is at the maximum range arc, and that means you have only a very limited amount of hitting here. Only the last unfolding hit. And it still took out half of the enemy Metaphase Shield 3, okay? Only that last unfold hit it and took around 2,800 effective hit points off it. Why 2,800? Let me explain. One Metaphase Shield 3 gives you around 2,800 shielding, okay? But it is always the right type of shielding, which means it only takes 50% of the incoming damage, which means in turn that one Metaphase Shield level 3 protects you from effective around 5,600 damage. Okay, that's how it works. So we can assume here that those leftover 2,800 shielding here, leftover 1,500, 1,400 shielding are almost 3,000 hit points effective, okay? And then we have a full Dominion carrier behind that. And the Dominion carrier has 6,000 hit points itself. It gets 1,000 hit points from the armored thrusters, and I'm guessing there's a Syntium Armor 5 on it because we're speaking about maxed out Fleet Bay 13 fleets from high-end level coiner players who don't really care much about repair time. So we can assume there's around 8,000 something armor here, and well, let's say effective hit points of around 2,800, 3,000 here, okay? One single shot of this cutter will now be fired, and you wouldn't believe how much damage this gets. If you want to make an estimate, guess for yourself how much hit points will be left on that carrier after this one cutter with 4 weapon slots will fire once. I hope you have made your estimation and you can see if you were right or wrong after this one shot, okay? Nothing else is firing on this carrier, this one salvo of this one cutter. Here we go, 4 weapon slots, fire! Boom. Okay, ba-ba-bam-bam, meta-phase gun, ba-ba-bam, ba-ba-bam, ba-ba-bam. Look at this. Holy shit, there's this little sliver of health left after one salvo of the Manifold Missile. Here's another one coming right now, but it hasn't yet done damage. One shot did absolutely more than 10,000 damage on this carrier. Why? Because the carrier is a huge target. It has a really big hitbox, so every single missile, even those who kind of spread a little bit to the right and to the left, all of them hit this carrier, and every single unfold hits this huge big hitbox every further time as well. And that's what makes the Manifold Missile currently the strongest weapon in the game if the situation is the right one. Even the Xeno Disintegrator Cannon looks like a complete joke compared to this right here. However, the Xeno Disintegrator Cannon is better because it does its 250 DPS with additional health and low repair time and all that, and built-in built-in focused optics with an incredible weight to damage ratio. It does all that reliably. You get in range, you get that, okay? There's no missing. There's no bad situation for the Disintegrator Cannon. There's also no bad situation for a Nova Ray, a situation where the enemy, flies into the missile, and therefore you only get a limited amount of damage. All that doesn't exist for those weapons, and that's what makes them so good, right? The Manifold Missile has its strength when things like that happen. When this carrier moves with the unfold process of the Manifold Missile. And that's why, guys, don't see the Manifold Missile as a weapon that deals 60 DPS. You need to see this weapon as a weapon that deals 300 DPS per one weapon when it unfolds into the same target. Okay, of course that requires the right situation, either an enemy fleet sitting there so that every unfold hits the other ships, or the ship following with the unfold process of the Manifold Missile like here. But even if it doesn't do that, usually a ship receives the first unfolding after the first initial hit, still it receives the hit. So you can pretty much say the 60 DPS are not correct, it's at least 100 DPS. Even in terrible situations, you still deal at least 100 DPS with one Manifold Missile normally. Okay? Only when a ship, like when you fire up here at a ship and it moves like this, then you hit the ship once, and then the Manifold Missile either go all the way. Then you have really only done a very limited amount of damage. Then the Manifold Missile becomes almost useless. Almost completely useless. You might as well not be firing at all, okay? So that's the only situation where the Manifold Missile does incredibly terrible. Then there's situations where, in the beginning, where the cutter flies into the missile, where it underperforms. And then there's the situation where it does normal damage against ships that, try to face hug you or something, because it deals damage, and then it unfolds once, and the other unfolds go not into that, and then there's the situation where it maxes out the potential into an amount of damage you would never believe it's possible. And that's also why this weapon is the best one in attacking bases, right? Because the bridge is a massive target, same as this carrier, with a massive hitbox, right? And that means you can inflict that heavy 10,000 alpha damage basically on the bridge too with one shot. Of course, that also means there's a optimum distance. Something that also many people don't realize. They think, the closer I get, the better. No, not even the case, because there is a minimum range and there's a maximum range, even though the weapon doesn't really suggest there is. If you sit on the bridge, okay, here's the hitbox of the bridge, and you sit in the middle of it, you fire upwards into the bridge. That means it fires and explodes here. Okay, this is the hitbox. It explodes here, and then it unfolds here once, hits the bridge, and all further unfolds go outside of the bridge. So the optimum range would be to sit, when this is the hitbox of the bridge, to sit here, fire from, let's say, the distance over 2 turrets, for example, and then make the Manifold Missile explode at the very beginning of the bridge, so that every single unfold will be into the bridge, and then you have done the 10,000 damage in one alpha that we could see here. Keep in mind, both ships, the cutter, the Basilisk cutter, and the Covenant cruiser, both were using, what is it called, blister rounds. So they have even additional 50% damage against, with those rockets, right, against armor. But, even without that, the amount of damage you could clearly see here is absolutely devastating. A few general hints, just with that is not related to the Manifold Missile itself, but also kind of, if you have Manifold Missile on your cruisers, then you really need that empty Midgard carrier to speed you up. Really, okay? Because otherwise you can see that all those cutters really haven't done any damage. This one killed the carrier later because it was so far to the right, and that's pretty much it. The other thing that dealt damage was this Infernal Gatling Ray, everything else was wasted. So you need really that that agility support field with you have Manifold Missiles on there, and other than that, it's useful to really go for the Infernal Gatling Ray if you can. Or even normal Gatling Rays for that matter, right? It's better than flying after a target that you can never reach with Manifolds. But yeah, so that's the one thing, and now I hope you guys understand perfectly well what makes the Manifold Missile so strong. Don't see it as a weapon that deals 60-something DPS. It's not. It's average 100 DPS, and when you have the right situation, it can be up to 300, 400 DPS, maybe even 500 per one weapon, okay? And yeah, so just keep that in mind. I guess 400 is something that you could realistically think of if you can combine it with blister rounds, okay? If you don't combine it with blister rounds, it might be around 300 something DPS that you can do when it's the perfect condition, like here against this carrier, for example. Is there anything else to say? I guess no. I guess I made my point, guys. Now you know, hopefully, what makes it so good. And yeah, I want to apologize for everyone who did not get the Manifold Missile back in the days when the only situation you were able to get that weapon, when I told you guys that it looks like a normal weapon, right? I only saw the stats, same as some of you guys. I see the stats and thought, hey, the Fisher torpedo just came out for frigates. It's not really a special weapon. 60 DPS, weighs a lot. What makes it so good, right? I told people that it's not the highest priority. I said put it like a priority 6 or 7 or something. And that's why maybe some of you guys didn't get it. I'm sorry. But how could I have possibly known that the Manifold Missile would be able to perform like this? No one could have known that. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and comment down below. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe as brutal as a man can hit for more. Thanks for bearing with me. You guys are awesome. As always, Manni-Gaming signing off. Bye-bye.